everyone. So a while ago I wore this sort of look in a video and I had so many people love it and request a tutorial or get ready with me style video doing this kind of look. So here it is. I hope you enjoy. So I was inspired by a post on Reddit, the original post as well as some of the CC on the look. It just sort of spoke to me and I went home that night and I played around with some things and came up with what that was. I'm actually really inspired more by photos and like product lists and suggestions as opposed to like actual tutorials. I like to try and figure things out on my own, so that's what I did. So I already have my base makeup on, foundation, concealer, and I have my brows painted on. So to start, I am going to prime my eyes. I'm using the Wet n Wild Photofocus eyeshadow primer, but really any eyeshadow primer will do. I do find eyeshadow primer to be a necessary step because it helps to keep my eyeshadow in place longer and no creasing. I also like to set my eyeshadow primer so that it's not too sticky and so that I can blend things easier. So I'm just gonna zoom you guys in slightly more so you can get a closer look at what's going on here. So for this whole look, I am going to be using the Kat Von D Vida Loca palette, but really a lot of the shadows are so dupeable and you can do whatever kind of combination you like. So I am just taking the shade Lyric in this palette, which matches my skin tone, just to set my primer. If you don't have a shadow that is close to your skin tone, if you have a pressed powder, that would work. A powder foundation, a loose powder, like a translucent powder, that works well as well. So for this look, I am using Scotch tape, just regular old Scotch tape. You definitely don't have to use tape. I know other people hold something that has like an edge against their eye while they do their blending, something like a business card. I find that that just didn't work for me and that tape was the easiest thing because I could just put it on and leave it. So you want to make sure that it's not too sticky, of course, but when it comes to the actual placement of it, you just want to experiment a little bit. And honestly, the first few times I was doing the tape method, I couldn't get it right. I would have it angled too high or too low. It really is just experimentation depending on your eye shape. So I usually like to line it up and angle it out. It can be a little bit tricky to get this right, but once you've played around with placement a little bit, you'll get a few ideas of what works for you for your eye shape. And it's always best to try and make these as even as possible when you first apply the tape so that you're not trying to correct things afterwards. You can easily correct things by adding more shadow if you need to or fixing it with liner. There's really simple ways to trick it if you happen to get it wrong, but it's just so much easier to do it right the first time. So this look is all about blues. And I'm using two different shades of blue, but the first one I'm taking is the darkest shade, which is for the outer portion of my eye, and I am using Dark Wave, which is this muted navy blue shade. It's beautiful, and it has more of a satin finish as opposed to a matte, so I find it just makes the whole look a little bit lighter as opposed to matte shadows, which can make things look a little bit flat. So I'm using a fluffy crease brush because I find that's the easiest way to apply the shadow. And I'm focusing it mostly on the outer third of the eye. I don't want to take it too far in because I'm going to need that space for blending later. So the fluffy brush makes it so much easier to blend because you're blending it as you're applying it as opposed to having to go back and blend it later. So I'm also trying not to bring it up too high, but I don't have a whole lot of lid space. So you can see I'm going above my crease, but I'm still keeping a little bit of space underneath my brow bone. So I'm not taking it all the way up there, but I am taking it up pretty high just because I don't have the space to work with. It's just a matter of going back and forth and adding more shadow to your brush as you need it. And I'm not applying it in any particular way. I'm really just packing the shadow on first and then blending it together, just little tiny buffing motions. Because it's going to save me from having to need to do a lot of blending later. Before I take the tape off, I am going to go in with the middle shade next. And the shade I'm using on the middle of my lid is called Skulls. It's a shimmery white shade that has more of a metallic finish, which I would absolutely recommend over just a flat white. Because I'm going to be adding glitter and I want to have a little bit of shine and I want it to reflect a little bit, I definitely want to stick with a metallic finish. So I did spray a tiny bit of Fix Plus into the pan first. And I'm just using a packing eyeshadow brush, just a flat like shader brush. I'm not taking it in too far either to the inner corner. I'm really focusing it more in the middle, but you'll see I did apply a little bit on top of that blue because that's what's going to help blend everything all together. I'm lining it up with the blue on the top as well, so I'm not taking the white any further than where I took the blue. And then I will be going back and forth between the brush I was using to apply the navy blue first and the white. So I'm not picking up any additional product. I'm keeping whatever is remaining on the product, and it's a lot of back and forth. So I'm using the shader brush and I'm tugging the shadow in towards the blue so that it's like they're meeting and they're blending in the middle, and then I'm taking it back out the other way. So I'm blending out and in, but I'm keeping the motions pretty small so that I don't get everything too muddy, because you want to have that clear shimmery white middle section, and I'm just picking up a little bit more on my brush. You want to have that shimmery white section, but you also want to have the deeper blue on the outer side. And I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more of the navy blue, but I'm not focusing that on blending it. I'm focusing that on the portion closest to the tape. And this is just a lot of going back and forth until I'm happy with the way that it looks. And sometimes it can take a while because you just want to make sure that it sort of blends somewhat seamlessly together. Obviously, these colors are very far away from each other, but you can create a nice little gradient, and so it looks a little bit more seamless. You can always come back and blend later. For right now, I am going to take the tape off because I feel pretty happy with how much pigment I have, and it was starting to irritate my eye. Normally it doesn't, but I was trying to apply the tape with one hand, and normally I use two hands, so I didn't apply it quite right. But anyway, there you can see the easy sharpness. Normally I wouldn't have done my foundation first. It's much easier to clean up sort of the fallout mess you might get if you do your foundation afterwards. So normally at this step is when I would do foundation, because you can also help to clean up this line. For the next step, I'm going to be doing the inner corner, and I am picking up a really bright blue shade. This is Synth, and I'm using a smaller blending brush. So again, just like with Dark Wave, this shadow has more of a satin finish. So it's going to blend a little bit easier, but it's going to be better than a glitter because you would get too much fallout from trying to blend a glitter too much. So I'm also taking it down to the inner corner and slightly onto the lower lash line. I'm building up skulls again. It's really important to not take either color too far in, or you lose what really makes this special and you lose that shimmer in the middle. I am going to take a completely clean blending brush. This is the same brush that I used to apply Dark Wave, and I am just lightly going over the top in little tiny circular motions to blend things together. I want the sharpness to be on the outer portion and the top bit to be a little bit hazier. And then I'm going to use that brush to help blend a little bit there. Continuing on with the lower portion of the eye with a little pencil brush, taking skulls, and I'm really just doing the same thing to the bottom as I did to the top. So I have the light blue in the inner, skulls in the middle, and then dark wave, deep blue in the outer portion. And blend as you need to. I'm using the cleaner brush again, as opposed to picking up like a new shadow or like a shadow to blend it. To make the inner corner pop even more, I am going to take blue sapphire from the Kat Von D Alchemist palette, and I am going to apply that right to the inner corner of the eye to make it pop a little bit more, have a little bit more brightness in the inner corner. And I did bring the shadow down a little bit to make it even more dramatic. I'm going to take a little bit of a black eyeliner for my waterline, and then I'm taking a black eyeliner pen and I am sketching out a black line. Nothing too crazy. And I'm going to match the line with the wing of the shadow. Honestly, the best part about winging your shadow like that is that if you are really bad at winged liner, you don't need to do it, because the shadow's already winged for you. Now before I do mascara, I'm going to take some glitter. So in the original video, I used gold because that was all I had that I felt was appropriate, but I really wanted silver. And so now I am using silver glitter. And this is one of the Urban Decay glitter liners. This is Glam Rock. These are so easy to use. So I'm going over the same spot where I put the bright blue, and I'm dragging it out a little bit on the lower lash line, but sort of using just the brush to blend so that you get a little bit of a fading effect, because you're not picking up any more glitter, you're just swiping the brush back and forth to blend it out. So that really gives you that sort of sparkly eyes. And I'm also putting glitter on top of the wing. I'm taking it a little bit down below the wing as well. So it's like you have an extra wing made purely of glitter. From further away, it's really going to catch the light. So the next step is simply mascara. And you could totally just leave it like that. I think you have a lot of good drama from the shadow and glitter alone, but I am going to be using some false lashes, of course. So there you have the finished eye look. The rest of the face is really quite simple. I will just breeze by it really quickly. I'm just using a little bit of a sort of setting powder on the rest of my face. I like to use this silica gel stuff because it really makes my skin feel soft. So I will have a full list of the products in my description box. I am going to take a little bit of the Snow highlighter, and with my finger I'm going to apply it underneath my brow bone, just because I felt like that was a little bit lacking. And then for lip color, I actually mixed two in my video, so I will use that exact combo. Alright, so here is the completed look. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope this gives you a little bit of inspiration, and I hope that you might try this for yourself. And if you try any version, whatever you decide to create, if you're inspired by this look, please do tag me on like Instagram or send me a Snapchat photo or something like that, because I'd love to see what you guys come up with. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.